time is 6:15. Here is the news edited by Dulmin Samrasingha, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. Australian Home Affairs Minister says Sri Lanka will be supported to solve the economic crisis. Sri Lanka has paid its attention on creating an export-oriented economy. A special mechanism introduced for health staff to get fuel. The UMP says some groups cannot be allowed to disrupt the economic recovery efforts of the country. Sri Lanka Navy seizes around 543 kilograms of Kerala cannabis. Foreign news: Russia becomes China's biggest oil supplier. Sports news: Fina bars transgender swimmers from women's elite events. Local news in detail. Australian Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill says Sri Lanka will be supported to solve the economic crisis according to the International Monetary Fund framework. She mentioned this when she met President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the President's house in Colombo today. Ms. Claire said the present government follows the policy of zero space for illegal immigration and human smuggling records as the previous Australian government. President Rajapaksa explained the steps taken to prevent illegal immigration when he was the Defence Secretary. He said Sri Lanka Navy is continuing with the measures. The President appreciated the support given by Australia in this regard and said both countries are working in sound cooperation. The President said government is giving its full support to maintain Indian Ocean zone as a peace zone. The Australian minister said support would be given to Sri Lanka to increase state revenue by providing experience related to customs administration and for the success of renewable energy generation program. She also said her government is prepared to assist to make Sri Lanka a hub for higher education for international studies and to enhance vocational and technical education. Australian Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill has assured Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe that assistance will be given to promote Australian investment in Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister said Sri Lanka has paid its attention on creating an export-oriented economy. Health Minister Keheli Rambukala says a special mechanism has been introduced for health staffers to obtain fuel during the present crisis situation, where the health workers could obtain fuel at designated filling stations across the country. He said in a Twitter post that the mechanism was introduced following a discussion with Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara to ensure continuous supply of fuel for health staff. The minister has instructed all heads of health institutions to issue a letter certifying the individual as a staff member of a health institution to be produced at a filling station. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news, UMP Working Committee member Dino Colambage claims that a group of individuals surrounded the Finance Ministry and attempted to prevent the Finance Secretary from attending the IMF talks. He said such groups cannot be allowed to disrupt the economic recovery efforts of the country. He said in a statement that the protesters are not part of the groups who have been calling for a genuine change in the country, but rather those who have ulterior political motives. He pointed out that it was during the 2020 parliamentary election that the UMP first said that the country needs to go to the IMF for assistance. Sri Lanka Navy personnel have seized around 543 kilograms of Kerala cannabis during a foot patrol in Periyapadu Beach, Udaipur. SLNS Thambapani, the Northwestern Naval Command, took hold of 173 packages that had been washed ashore yesterday. It is believed that the smugglers had abandoned these packages and fled as a result of continuous naval operation in the area. The gross street value of the Kerala cannabis seized by the Navy is close to 120 million rupees. Labour and Foreign Employment Ministry has decided to provide free vocational training for the children of the local working community, targeting global job market. While addressing a meeting, Minister Manushana Naikar said priority will be given to the children of the families of the workers who have lost their jobs. The discussion was taken by the Minister Nanaikara following a decision was taken by the Minister Nanaikara following a discussion held at the ministry this morning. The Committee on Public Accounts focused on the use of information technology by the Department of Import and Export Control and other government institutions that can contribute more towards government revenue. Attention on this regard was drawn at the Committee on Public Accounts, which met under the chairmanship of MP Lasantha Alagiyavan recently. The main focus of the discussion was on ICTA's involvement in the development of the licensing process of the Department of Imports and Exports, the computer program for integration of institutions and the development of the Revenue Administration Management System. Discussions were held on the launch of the Institutional Integration Computer Program 2015 related to the licensing process of the Department of Imports and Exports, which is still in an unsuccessful state. Chairman of Arali Rice Production Company Dudley Sirisena says he will implement the decision to issue rice under government-approved controlled price. He said government should give its support for the effort. He further said organizations such as Consumer Affairs Authority, Trade Ministry and Petroleum Corporation should directly get involved in the program. Mr. Sirisena added, it is essential to provide fuel to transport rice. Former member of the Sabaragama Provincial Council, Hasitha Samantha Muhandiramalais Sarpaya, has been acquitted and released from the case against him over double murder in 1999. Colombo High Court Judge Navaratna Marasinghe delivered the decision when the case was taken up today. The Attorney General filed the case against Muhandiram in connection with the murders of former Sabaragama Provincial Councillor Ranjit Nandasena and his security officer who had killed in Kalabana area in 1999. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Vijayasekaran said that a proposal to set up a system of supplying fuel twice a week according to the final number of the number plate for vehicles is being studied. This is other than SLTB and other passenger transport buses and fuel issued to other vehicles providing essential services. Minister Vijayasekaran also said 2 shipments of petrol and diesel will arrive in the country on June 23rd and 24th. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Anuradhapura Hospital's consultant Dr. Uday De Silva assured that government hospitals have all necessary medical facilities to treat snakebite victims and urged people to take such patients to government hospitals immediately for treatment. He made these remarks at a press briefing yesterday conducted by a group of medical specialists in Colombo. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to world news. Headlines first. Russia becomes China's biggest oil supplier. Conference on catastrophic effects of nuclear arms opens in Vienna. Colombia elects ex-rebel as first left-wing president. World news in detail. Russia has become China's biggest supplier of oil as the country sold discounted crude to Beijing amid sanctions over the Ukraine war. Imports of Russian oil rose by 55% from a year earlier to a record level in May, displacing Saudi Arabia as China's biggest provider. China has ramped up purchases of Russian oil despite a demand dampened by COVID curbs and a slowing economy. An international conference to discuss the catastrophic effects of the nuclear arms will convene amid rising fears over Russia's possible use of nuclear weapons during its invasion of Ukraine. The conference on the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons will open in Vienna today. It precedes by one day the start of the first meeting of the state parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Gustavo Petro, the former mayor of Bogota and ex-rebel fighter, has become Colombia's first left-wing president. Mr. Petro, a current senator, defeated the right-wing construction magnate Rodolfo Hernandez in Sunday's runoff election. Figures show he took 50.5% of votes, defeating his millionaire rival by a close margin of around 700,000 ballots. The result marks a major change for the country, which for decades has been led by moderates and conservatives. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines. Russia becomes China's biggest oil supplier. Conference on catastrophic efforts of nuclear arms opens in Vienna. Colombia elects ex-rebel as first left-wing president. That ends world news. Moving on to development news. 2 new Chinese-manufactured cranes will be fitted at berth number 6 of the Hambantota International Port. The show cranes shipped by barge from the port of Zhenjiang in China to HIP came fully assembled and took nearly 6 weeks to complete their journey. The cranes built to fit HIP regulations are customized to comply with the port's environmental standards. The new equipment, which will be used for the discharge of the bulk raw materials for the Langma cement factory, will move clinker, gypsum and cargo. That ends development news. Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
FINA, swimming's world governing body, has voted to stop transgender athletes from competing in women's elite races if they have gone through any part of the process of male puberty. FINA will also aim to establish an open category at competitions for swimmers whose gender identity is different than their birth sex. The new policy, which was passed with 71% of the vote from 552 FINA members, was described as only a first step towards full inclusion for transgender athletes. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Ceylon Bank initiated a partnership with Rhoda Life Private Limited, the designer and manufacturer of Sri Lanka's first electric smart bicycle. The partnership will open many banking facilities and networking opportunities for Rhoda in its journey as a homegrown, innovative mobility solution. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Parliament Committee on Public Accounts directed the Department of External Resources to prepare a specific 10-year economic development plan aimed at economic development of the country. The Director General of the Department of External Resources said that despite the change in the political authority, there should be a specific 10-year development plan that will not change to build the country's economy. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Moving on to weather report, Met Department says showers will occur at times in western and sub-Regamar provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Gol and Matra districts. Several spells of showers will occur in northwestern province. Showers or thunder showers will occur at a few places in and eastern provinces during the afternoon or night. That ends weather report. To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Australian Home Affairs Minister says Sri Lanka will be supported to solve the economic crisis. Sri Lanka has paid its attention on creating an export-oriented economy. A special mechanism introduced for health staff to get fuel. The UMP says some groups cannot be allowed to disrupt the economic recovery efforts of the country. Sri Lanka Navy seizes around 543 kilograms of Kerala cannabis. Foreign news, Russia becomes China's biggest oil supplier. Sports news, Fina bars transgender swimmers from women's elite events. That ends the evening news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.